Hello guys, you're watching Rayl Deal Games, and today I'm going to be talking about modern arcades and third spaces for adults. So third spaces are the area that you go outside of work and home to see people, meet new people, and make new friends. Third spaces are like you might be a bar, might be in ages past the mall, for instance. But I actually have been going to modern arcades, which definitely are more for adults these days. And I have found them to be the best modern third space for a bunch of adults to get together and have a good time, which is crazy ironic if you think about how arcades were in the 80s, 90s, and at the death knell of them in the early 2000s. I think actually the modern arcade could save the arcade space and is a genuine awesome way to spend your time, and I do recommend that you go to a modern arcade, maybe your local one, maybe you do a day trip. And I'm going to talk about two of the best arcades that I have been to over the last year or so. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Fun Spot in Laconia or Laconia. I'm not from New Hampshire, so I don't know, but Laconia, New Hampshire. So what I really liked about this arcade is it's very wide open. There's a lot of space just for going around. You walk in, it's self-serve in a lot of ways. So you put in some money, you get tokens, and then you can play games. And they've got a nice selection of games. Some of the games I want to talk about real quick that I had actually never played before going to this arcade are Daytona Championship, which is a sequence of 8 machines that are connected, and you can play up to 8 human players with, I believe there were AI racers, but I'm not actually 100% certain about that. But yes, up to 8 players. Myself and 5 of my friends played Daytona Championship, and we had an awesome time. What's really cool about Daytona Championship is that it has a camera for your face, and so as you pass somebody, it will show you who you passed with the camera of their face. So you get to see their expression, which is hilarious whenever you smash into them and launch them into the sky, and you can see them looking over at you, laughing. Oh, it was such a great community experience. Something I think that video games often are very unfortunately characterized as a solo hobby, and that is not necessarily how they need to be. If you guys have been subbed to the channel for a while and you've been following my Mega Man review series, you will know that I've been playing those games with my friends John and Ryan, with Jeremy on the back end. Well, John and Jeremy were here at this arcade with me, and you may actually be able to see them in the clip that's on the side. I'm not sure yet if I had anything from them because it was very hard to record that. I basically had to hold my camera right here while I was driving and doing stuff, so it was a very awkward position to be in, so I'm not sure what the footage looks like for that. But for me, games have always been this kind of like community thing, and it goes back to my father and the way that my father, brothers, and I would sit around the TV while he played Resident Evil, and we would do commentary and stuff. I actually think it's the big reason that people like streamers, because it kind of replicates that effect with somebody that you have a parasocial relationship with. It's just that I prefer the social relationship, people you actually know, going to an arcade or playing a single player game together, or even an online game with your friends. Although I would say that of the 3 things I just said, the online play one is actually the least impactful and fun, in my opinion. I actually think going to the arcade with your friends or having them over at your house for couch combat or couch co-op is actually the best way to do it, which I know is hard as you get older, which is why these third space modern arcades are a great thing and definitely worth your money if you are like me, late 20s, 30s. I'm 30, so I'm at the cusp, middle ground there, but I find that these are a good use of money, and you get a nice amount of time for your dollar. I spent $20 at Fun Spot, and we got like 3.5 hours or 4 hours of game time, running around, having a good time. Not running, we're old, but walking around and having a good time. And yeah, it was great. Very nice selection of games beyond Daytona. Championship. It also had a Crazy Taxi Machine, Afterburner, and those are the other two games I want to talk about because Crazy Taxi is actually one of my favorite arcade games. I would say, my favorite like arcade non-fighting game arcade game is probably Dig Dug. I love Dig Dug, but Crazy Taxi is definitely up there. I've only actually played it on Dreamcast before this weekend that I went and did this, but Crazy Taxi is great. Playing it on arcade hardware was fantastic. I wish I could afford a cabinet of my own because of how fun it was. Definitely needs a re-release because Crazy Taxi is just a fun game. And then the other game that I thought I would never play in my life because of how rare Afterburner is, it's a 1987 game, I think, with like this full, just, this machine will like turns you this way and then also up and down like when you're flying the actual fighter jet, and it really feels like you're flying a fighter jet with the way that it moves. Oh my god, guys, this was such a good experience. I loved playing Afterburner. I played it several times there. It was a little bit of a more expensive machine to play on, but I felt like I got a nice amount of play for it, and it really kind of played into the kinesthetics of the arcade. So arcades have this kind of kinesthetic appeal, especially with driving games and flight sims and stuff like that, where you get to actually move the thing. And I never really thought the peripheral, like the driving wheel peripheral that was on the PS1 and PS2 was really that big of a deal when I was younger. But when you're actually sitting in an arcade cabinet playing Cruisin' World, which is something I played too, or Daytona USA, or Crazy Taxi, or Afterburner, or Jurassic Park Light Gun game, which I also played there, these things really foundationally change your experience with the game in a positive way. I very much would say that that is a completely different experience than when I played Forza Horizon 5 earlier this year, which was a fun game, don't get me wrong, but definitely missing out a bit by not having the steering wheel there. As I just mentioned, light gun games were also something that we don't get anymore because you can't really do a light gun game. I guess they could start doing them in VR and kind of did them in VR, but it's just different when you actually are holding a gun in your hand, like a plastic thing that looks like a gun, and you actually need to reload and press buttons to do it. It just has this different kinesthetic appeal, and you can't get that anywhere outside of a modern arcade, and it's definitely worth going just for that reason alone, in my opinion. The other arcade I want to talk about today is Galloping Ghosts in Brookfield, Illinois, which is a burb of Chicago. So I almost said Chicago there. And it's because I have to go to Chicago in order to get over there reliably without needing to deal with Chicago traffic, which I definitely do not want to deal with at all. I do not want to die. The one time I've dealt with Chicago traffic, my brother and I almost got ran off the road by a truck that went across 4 lanes or 3 lanes or whatever it was for literally no reason, because he went right back over the lane he was just at and there was literally no one in front of him. So he actually went all the way over, almost hit us. I think he missed us by like half a foot at tops at like 70 miles an hour, and then went all the way over. So yeah, I don't like dealing with Chicago traffic, but you can get to Galloping Ghosts reliably well without dealing with that Chicago traffic. So definitely a good place to go to if you ever can. This one, I would say, is the biggest arcade I've ever been to. Literally hundreds of arcade cabinets, and this is one of those you pay once and then you can play all day type of things. This one has pretty much every major fighting game that came out in arcades, so it's got a machine for all 4 Mortal Kombat titles. It's got an arcade machine for both Killer Instinct titles. It had Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2. All kinds of things that now, since I went, which I went right before a lot of these announcements, all these things are coming to modern hardware, but you really can't beat playing it on arcade hardware, in my opinion. There's just something about the vibe that arcades give you for a lot of these titles that cannot be replicated within your own home, and you get to talk to a lot of people and see other people play, and there's a lot of fun to be had in watching other people play a game while you're waiting for your turn, in my opinion. I actually think a lot of the way that people learned how to play video games was from Monkey See Monkey Do in the arcades. Like, they got to see people play the fighting game, and so when they got up there, they could replicate the moves themselves, and that was a way a lot of people learned how to play fighting games back in the 90s, and I actually think that's pretty genius. And it actually did happen when I was at Galloping Ghosts too, with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage of the Future, I think was that one. I can't remember which one is the arcade cabinet. Actually, I think it's just JoJo's Venture for the arcade cabinet. So I played that one in Galloping Ghosts, and somebody was on it before me, and I actually got to learn a little bit from watching them play. And that's just a microcosm of what it would be like back when arcades were the hottest thing in town. You know what I mean? And that brings me to my next topic about the two different ways that arcades can run in the modern era, and that is infinite play and token play. So, either do you get to pay once and play infinitely the whole day, or do you get to buy tokens and then pay off those tokens? And I think both of these systems have merits. If you're looking to play for a very, very long time, like you want to do a 6-hour stint at the arcade, then the play all day thing is better. I think Galloping Ghost was about $20, which is about the amount that I spent at Fun Spot in New Hampshire. I spent maybe 6 hours at Galloping Ghost when I was there, maybe 7. So that was like a good time frame for that. But at 3.5 hours at Fun Spot, I actually think the token play was better. Maybe would have spent a little bit more, all things considered, but I also could have spent less. The reason why I spent so much at Fun Spot was down to the pinball machines, which I'll get over to here in a minute. A lot of these these modern arcades have pinball machines, which I actually recommend that you check out a lot of the pinball machines that have come out this decade, like the 2020s, because they're pretty insane. So between infinite play and token play, I mean, obviously, I like the idea of infinite play. That's where I would go personally all the time. But token play has its merits, especially if you just want to pop in for 30 minutes with your kids, because I know a lot of you have kids out there in my community, or if you wanted to pop in for an hour, token play is actually going to be the better way to play than infinite play. You'll actually end up paying more for infinite play. So I think both systems have their merits. I think it does kind of impact what you want to do and how you want the arcades to be, but it could be a fun way to spend just a night out with the guys after working all day, in my opinion. And then the final thing I want to talk about that I actually never thought I would ever talk about on this channel were pinball machines. So pinball, obviously, we all know pinball, played it on Microsoft computers, the Windows 95 pinball, I believe, is what it was. It's been so long, I don't remember if that's the pinball machine that was like the first PC pinball. We all know pinball, you all know how it works, but I was incredibly shocked. I was walking around Fun Spot, and I looked over and I saw a Godzilla pinball machine. Now, I had heard about this pinball machine back when it came out a couple years ago. Somebody mentioned it in passing in a random video and how they thought it was really cool. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I did remember that it was apparently fun. So I went over there, I had the tokens, and I played a round, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. I've literally never enjoyed pinball in my entire life. I thought it was okay, but just never saw the infinite replayability appeal of it until I played that Godzilla pinball game. The combination of sounds and the way that they integrated video gaming elements like questing, there's like quests that you can do, completely changed the game for me. The fact that you have like you can get an oxygen destroying bomb and then have to quest for oxygen and try to get your ball to hit the right area to stay in the game. And then if you complete quests or certain things happen or there's a monster battle, they'll give you more balls to handle. Insane. Really, really loved that. The kinesthetics of the pinball machine when you're actually there playing pinball, and also the sound feedback of all the sound effects from the films and stuff. Really, really cool. After playing that for a few rounds, I looked around. I was like, what else do they got here? And I saw this shark cage with the Jaws pinball machine that came out last year. Apparently, I didn't know it at the time. I looked it up after playing on it. In there, I was like, that is genius. And I had to go over there and play it because Jaws is one of my favorite films. And that one was cool too, because it has a different sort of questing system in it as well, where you will be able to select a specific shark that you want to hunt, a mako, a great white, whatever the case may be. And I didn't play enough to know what the differences are, but I assume there's some kind of difference for completing the quest. And then it actually, something else I noticed while playing the Jaws machine specifically is you have two lines of things that shoot out. I don't know what these are called on the pinball machine, but you've got the basic bottom line that all pinball machines have, but these modern ones actually have a row higher up too, that you can launch things into specific areas. And what I noticed about these two pinball machines is that the second line of these launchers were in different locations, which was really cool and completely changed a lot of the higher level play that I noticed with these pinball machines. And something else I thought was really just cool from a flavor perspective with the Jaws machine is that you could actually get the shark head to pop out of the arcade cabinet, and then you can bop it right on the snout and get some extra points that way. And that was really, really cool, and has some awesome feedback there. And I was like, after I played that, I was like, okay, I need to see all of these machines and make sure I play anything else that looks cool before I run out of tokens. And that's when I came across the Alien pinball machine, specifically the Ripley edition, which I believe came out in 2023. This was my favorite pinball machine, and I spent the rest of my tokens here. Really, really cool machine. So not only is it alien themed, and many of you subbed from that Alien Isolation video from almost a year ago, and yeah, so you guys know I love Alien. I love me some Alien. This pinball machine on its own, I would go to an arcade and play this for $20 worth on its own. I had that much fun with these pinball machines, but this one specifically. And part of the reason why is that it's got these like face huggers on it, and when you hit the face huggers, they like jump and shoot the ball out, which I thought was a really cool feature. They also have a airlock that your ball will get locked into, and then it'll zip right back at your face very quickly. I was surprised the first time. I missed it completely because of that. That's a really cool thing. But the best thing about this particular one is how if you complete a quest or do something, I'm not really sure what triggers this because I only saw it twice. I did it myself, and then John did it as well. And a xenomorph head will open up, and it will grab your ball with the second mouth, which has a magnet on the end, I suppose. And then it'll eat it and shoot it out and give you two more balls to deal with at the same time. When I saw this, my mind was blown. I was like, that is so cool. And part of why I wanted to make this video is because pinball machines are things that really cannot be replicated through video games easily, not like the kinesthetics of it and that design. There is this pinball machine on Steam I kind of want to play and see if it is able to replicate it, because it has an AVP version of it, which I think would be cool to look at. But yeah, guys, modern arcades are the third space for adults these days. I 100% recommend you check out modern arcades, maybe do some research and look for one near you. Take your kids, take your wife, take your girlfriend, take the bros. It doesn't matter. I think it's a fun time for everybody because arcades were designed to be played quickly by anybody. And I think these modern arcades are really, are set up in such a way to be both family friendly and also just third space adult friendly in general. Some of them that I've went to will have like many restaurants in them too. I can think of one in New York, which wasn't really an arcade, but it was like a retro console game thing. They had like a couple hacked consoles. I think that was called 8-Bit in New York. So sometimes they're tied with restaurants, and sometimes they have restaurants in there. Like Fun Spot had a food area in it as well. Galloping Ghosts, I think, serves food too, if I remember right. I didn't eat there, though. I crossed the street and ate at a taco place for when I went there. So, guys, I had to talk about this. This is a little bit of a longer video than I typically do with these kind of midweek thought pieces. But, yeah, this was so fun, and it's a big recommendation that I can give you all. Definitely check them out. Get a couple people together, or just meet a new friend there. It'd be awesome. Well, guys, thank you guys for watching the video. This was Rayl Deal Games. If you like this one, maybe check out one of my other videos on the screen. You may like my other and future work. Regardless of what you choose to do, thank you for keeping it real with Rayl Deal Games, and I hope you all have a great day.